Harry Kane burst the Hammers bubble and ensured our away streak continued on Saturday, but can they prove their Champions League credentials on Tuesday night? And is Serge on the verge of an early Pochettino talking to? This is your E-Spurs podcast.
Come on, E-Spurs! Come on, E-Spurs! Come on, E-Spurs! Come on, E-Spurs! Tottenham!
Hi guys, welcome back to your E-Spurs podcast. Plenty to talk about on a packed show once again this week. And as always, there's plenty of ways for you to get involved with the show. You can of course follow us via Twitter and Instagram at E_Spurs. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/E-Spurs page. Give us a like on there. And our YouTube channel, just search E-Spurs TV on YouTube. Before we kick off tonight, just a reminder guys that you can also download our free app via the App Store or Google Play, where you'll find all of our articles, audio and video feeds. Check out the chat rooms on there and much more. Of course, as I say, it's free of charge and well worth a look, so get involved with the free E-Spurs app. So before we talk about what's been happening in the world of Tottenham this week, let's introduce tonight's panel. And first up, I'm pleased to introduce our very own Tottenham Texan. It's Austin Vardone. How you doing, mate?
Hey man, it's good to be back for another week, and obviously talking about 3 points. Very excited about this pod.
Yeah, great win to talk about off the back of. Always good after a win, isn't it? And alongside Austin tonight, making his first appearance on the E-Spurs podcast, I'm pleased to welcome on Kev Selly. How you doing, Kev?
I'm very well, thank you. Very looking forward to talking a bit of Spurs.
We were just saying before we came on air, mate, wasn't we? It's always good therapy to talk about Tottenham. And if you can, just before we start talking about the game, we always like to introduce new contributors to the podcast by just giving a little bit of your background and Spurs supporting history, if you can.
Yeah. I started supporting Spurs when I was about 10 years old. The days of Klinsmann and Sheringham was the one that got me hooked. My dad was a big Spurs fan when he was younger as well, and it kind of followed through to me. Literally just started watching football one day, saw Spurs. This is pretty interesting. Ever since then, I was hooked. So I've been through all the bad times, the managers that have not been very good, have had the really good players that have left, all that sort of stuff. There's been some hard times, as we know. But yeah, so hopefully looking forward and looking upwards, hopefully from here on in.
Certainly are. And listen, mate, welcome to the podcast. Great to have you on. I'm looking forward to hearing what you think about the current Tottenham team. So let's start talking about the game, shall we? 3-2, of course, at the London Stadium yesterday. Although, Austin, it wasn't as comfortable as it perhaps should have been, was it?
No, it was at the end a very tight game, but overall a fantastic result. It just improves our road record this season to 3-0 on the road. This was the first road game in which we had given up a goal, actually, so it was interesting to kind of see that, especially against the likes of a West Ham. But I felt like the team played very well. Obviously, going up 3-0 was a little shocking. I think the last two seasons we played West Ham on the road have been 1-0 losses, both also coming at the late part of the season where they were impacting our title run. So it was a tale of many different stories, and for us to kind of rectify a lot of the mistakes we've made in the past while still making a few this time around, but not having to pay the ultimate price of dropping 2 points, I think is a wonderful result moving forward. And our boy Harry Kane is on fire right now. So, I look to see more of that later in the week against Apoel. But, yeah, that's West Ham's been fantastic. The game was a great result, and I thoroughly enjoyed the performance.
Yeah, I think we'll all echo that, and it's just lovely to see those faces in the crowd, isn't it? Full time, the pain etched on the West Ham fans' face after their cup final. Brilliant stuff.
Oh yeah,
great win. And Kev, I mean, obviously second half, it was a slightly different game because of the sending off. How much of an impact do you think the Aurier sending off had on the overall result in the game?
Well, I mean, it was a stupid tackle, really, wasn't it? You could even see Pochettino on the touchline talking to Hernandez, and you could tell he was a bit like, what's he doing? Very silly. But I do think it did make a bit of an impact for a while, because put Sissoko, didn't he, right back, which didn't really work, so that's why I had to bring on Trippier. And even though the whole game they kept going down that side where Aurier was, and they were doing it even more when Sissoko was there as well. So I do think it put a lot of pressure on us, and especially when they got that goal to make it 3-2, that just, again, the fans was up, they started to get behind them. But I think we did pretty well to sort of ride it out, to be honest, especially when he brought Llorente on. I thought he did well. I mean, he's had a little bit of a scrap, but he was getting in there, holding the ball up a little bit, even though it was only for 5 minutes. But I think it made a bit of a difference, to be honest.
Yeah, he was clever, wasn't he, Llorente? I thought
very clever.
Sort of, bit of time wasting in there, which is what maybe teams have done against Spurs in the past, and something we were a bit slow to learn.
Definitely, yeah, and that's one of the things I think that little bit of experience. I mean, it was only 5 minutes he was on for maybe, but those little things make a difference sometimes, don't they? So I think that he made a little bit of a difference, and but again, overall, I thought we played really well, to be honest. Just apart from that last little bit at the end when Aurier got sent off, it just kind of put a bit of pressure on us, but we rode it out. So good win.
Certainly was a crucial win as well. When you look at the other results around us, all the other teams all winning. So it was really important that we kept up that winning streak. I want to talk about, Austin, a certain Dane in our squad who's now become the highest scoring Dane in Premier League history, overtaking someone who played down the road apparently, which is maybe not much of a compliment. I mean, he's fantastic, isn't he? And this season especially, he's gone to another level, I think, isn't he? Christian Eriksen.
Yeah, were you talking about Nicholas Bentner just now?
Well, yeah, that's the one I think. Allegedly.
Yeah. It's crazy to think that Eriksen, who is very humble, almost to, a negative amount, because you'd like to see him have confidence, especially because we all have seen how incredible his touch, his involvement. I mean, the ball through to Dele, which set up Kane for the first goal, is just sublime. The second, where he kind of, in the second goal, he was in the build-up where he kind of has like a sexy little chip flick over the defender to Jan, where Jan runs onto it, and then Jan's running up the field, and then he passes it into Dele, who then gets it over to Kane for the second goal, so he's also integral in that goal. And then obviously the third goal, he scores it himself off of a pretty kind of, I've watched the goal probably, I think, at least 10 different times now, and every time that I watch it, I'm more impressed by a different kind of detail of the play. Obviously, it wasn't a ball that was meant for him necessarily from Aurier, but it was a ball that fell to him, and it was kind of a half volley where he has to side boot it. But when you watch it real time, it looks like he really gets a good strike on the ball. And it's just great technique to see him be able to, instead of sky it or instead of just give it only power like you see like the likes of a Sissoko do in that type of a situation, or even like a Dyer. Dyer probably would have just crushed that into Rosette. But you see the likes of Eriksen, it rolls right to his feet. And it really would have been more difficult, I think, for anybody in the squad, maybe less Harry Kane or a Dele Alli or an Eriksen, obviously, to finish that kind of a chance. It was a half chance, and I've watched it from several different angles. I've watched it from the stands. I've watched it from live play, and it was just a beautiful goal all around. He's the magician, man. He's the magic man. I mean, where he goes, we go. So, I love the Dane, and he's been killing it for us this year. Really, I think if he continues on this rise and doesn't really have a bit of a dip, I see as possibly challenging for the title again yet this year. But, it's going to take one of those Manchester City squads to falter a little bit, have a shout. But, yeah, I'm very excited. And, man, it's just so good to see him in good form, because obviously he gets pelters whenever he's a little bit off of form. So, I wish we didn't see so much of that. And maybe I'm getting ahead of myself, but the likes of like a Dele Alli, I thought he had a great game, Dele, and yet you see a lot of fans kind of giving him stick, and I don't necessarily agree with all of that, but I'll kick it back to you.
I mean, Kev, Austin makes a great point there about Eriksen in that, I mean, just playing devil's advocate here for a minute, do you think the one thing he does lack in his game is maybe a little bit of arrogance that we see in some of those top level players, or do you think he is what he is and we should just embrace him?
Yeah, I think maybe you're probably right in that sense. Maybe a tiny smidge of that. But then again, he's still very young as well. Really, I mean, he's 24, I think. Yeah, 23, something like that. I mean, it could probably always improve that. I think the way he is, I think he seems very humble, and I love Eriksen. I mean, his work rate is just fantastic. he runs all day long. It's not very often you get those attacking playmakers that run as much as he does. You know, you look at Ozil down the road. I mean, okay, he might put them assists in, but the amount of work that Eriksen does, it just stands out so much to me. You look at that team, you wouldn't think that would be the case, but he does. So I think it's so important for us. But I think you may be right. I think those big games, and you really need him to maybe pull something out. Yeah, he could definitely probably get that into his game, maybe. But who knows? He's still quite young, so.
Well, from one Spurs player breaking sort of records to another, Austin, because, I mean, what's left to say about this guy? That Harry Kane, another 2 goals on Saturday. He's now got the best minutes per goal record in the Premier League in London derbies of any player to score 10-plus goals. We know he's up there in the scoring charts in 2017 with the likes of Messi and Ronaldo. And this is a guy who's come through the youth system at Spurs. I mean, is there anything left that hasn't been said about this guy for us to say, other than that we hope he stays for a long, long time?
Yeah, I think the one thing to say is, when are we going to see a trophy? Is it going to be this season? Is it going to be next season? Because we know that Harry's not going anywhere. We know that. At this point, he's completely dedicated and fully committed to this club and this club only. He's like our Ledley King, this is my one and only club, just like he said. That's pretty much the same thing. What was the great line that he said the other week? My contract doesn't have a release clause, because I would never need one. I'm not going to leave. I'm not even going to have conversation around that.
And it's sort of killing the media over here at the moment, because every TV show you watch, they're talking about Kane and almost trying to drum up a move for him, mentioning Real Madrid and the Barcelonas. And for him to come out with that is just great, isn't it?
Yeah, well, I mean, you're going to see a lot of speculation on Harry about probably for the rest of his career, because he is that great. I mean, he is without a doubt the best English center forward in the game at this point in time. I don't think anybody's even arguing against that. No. So, and I really think he is probably going to be the captain of England here pretty soon. I mean, he's going to follow in that same mold of a Rooney, but way more humble, way more dedicated to his original club, because I think Rooney ultimately was from the Everton area and ended up moving to Man United. I would never see the likes of a Harry Kane doing that. I think he's Tottenham through and through, and he's not going anywhere. But like I said, the one thing that maybe can be said about him that we haven't said yet about him is, when is he going to start winning titles? Because you got to think, we love him so much. Would we really doubt him if he left and we didn't? Let's say we don't win any, and this, I'm just going to knock on wood, but let's say if we don't win any trophies whatsoever in the next 5 years, no trophy. You got to think that it might be one of those things where you might start to turn your head a little bit. But even then, I think the likes of a Harry Kane probably still wouldn't be tempted away. I think that ultimately he's like the captain of the ship. If the ship is sinking, he's going down with the ship. It's not one of those things where he's going to be, he's not going to just up and leave. Now, I could see other players leaving, like a Dele Alli. I think we all know is probably going to go in the next 2 to 3 years. Hopefully it's longer than that, but I even see Christian Eriksen being a little bit more dedicated than the likes of like a Dele Alli. But anyways, we're getting off task. Harry is our club man. I mean, he is like as good as we've probably ever produced out of our program itself. You know what I mean? I think that could probably easily be said, like the only man like from Tottenham, from the academy that has achieved the levels of just prowess that he has. Because I mean, if you look at both the goals that he scores, I hear a lot of West Ham fans crying about, them being lucky goals, quote unquote lucky goals. Well, the first goal was a mistake on their defense. That's not a lucky goal. That is a clinical team finishing whenever, there's an opportunity, and that's what good teams do. And Harry Kane's header was fantastic. It was probably a 10 out of 10 header. He had to kind of stretch his neck muscles a little bit, and then he flicks it down in the bottom left corner where Joe Hart doesn't even have a sniff. And the second goal is just a striker's goal. I mean, if you are where you're supposed to be, and you follow the run in your offense, where you might get a chance, you'll score the easy goal. And I think that, Harry for me is the most important player on the team. If he's injured, we go nowhere. So, yeah, I mean, I wish we had a little bit better cover at his position. But Llorente, again, I think to come back to West Ham really needs a mention and a shout out because he played fantastic football there in the last 10 to 15 minutes. He really saw the game out for us, and I'm excited to have him wearing the lily white shirt.
Yeah, he's just brilliant, isn't he? As I say, you sort of almost run out of things to say about the guy because he is that good. Kev, is there a better all-round striker in the game for you? Because I look at Kane, and I heard on a podcast I was listening to a few months back that there isn't one thing about his game that stands out, is there? You look at other strikers like a Lukaku, and he's a sort of beast of a player almost, isn't he? In terms of power and strength, whereas Kane is so much more, isn't he? He's more of an all-round player than any other player really in the Premier League.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's what makes him so good, because I think he's kind of got a bit of everything. The goals he scores all kinds of goals, left foot, right foot, headers, outside the box. He gets some assists sometimes as well. I think he's improving so much more. I think this season, one of the things I've noticed is he's become a little bit more sharper, a tiny bit quicker.
Yeah,
I've noticed this year, and he holds up the ball a lot better as well this year. Like, it's one of the things if I had to be picky, which is hard to with Harry Kane last season, I felt like he didn't hold the ball up as well as he probably could. And I think he's improved that massively already this season. I noticed that just on Newcastle game, the first game of the season. And I just think he just keeps adding these little strings to his bow every single season. It's hard to say if there is a better striker out there at the moment. I heard that he's got more goals than Ronaldo in 2017. Is that right?
Crazy, yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Some of the stats that we've been seeing from the guy, and that's another thing about you see Ronaldo, you see images on every newspaper, magazine, you see Messi, flashed around. But this is another really humble guy, isn't he? He's in the same sort of mould as an Eriksen. Oh, definitely, and I think that's one of the reasons I think the Spurs fans love him so much. Yeah.
Because he does seem so humble, and the thing he says all the right things, and that's what we want. We've wanted a player like that to lead our club for such a long time. That's kind of come through the academy, and he's that guy. So and the fact that he works so hard for the team, and even when he's not playing very well, he's not scoring goals. He just works so hard for the team, doesn't he? And I think that's what Spurs fans love. Yeah,
absolutely. It's fantastic to have him in the side. The win, of course, moves Tottenham up to 4th in the league now. Results yesterday, as I say, everybody around us won, so that made it even more important that we got a win. I put a question out on Twitter yesterday, Austin, regarding the scheduling of Premier League games. In your opinion, is it more of an advantage to play before your rivals, or does it help knowing the results around you and playing afterwards? What is the more favourable scenario for you?
I think that the ultimate kind of like football fan, the ultimate, I guess, mindset, maybe this is the mindset of a few of the top level managers. Whenever you're looking at your schedule, you probably want to look more at like your matchups throughout the season. Obviously, other matchups throughout the season are going, those results are going to affect your standing in the table at times, especially if you play before your rivals. I think it does give you a bit of an advantage because it puts the pressure on them to perform in their game. So I do agree 100% with that, but I think that realistically a good coach probably doesn't worry about so much what's on the peripheral. You need to worry about the next game. And I think that if you have a game-by-game game plan and a game-by-game basis of where, you want to achieve a certain set of goals, then you're going to be ultimately the most effective. So you kind of have to look at it in a very mathematical sense. Okay, well, we have 38 pretty much away games this season, and it's just crazy because all of our games on the road so far have been so successful. So I think that any time a team sees us coming to their home stadium this season, at least the current trend is that we're going to give you a really tough game. So I'm sure that Pochettino will be excited about the possibility of getting more games like that, where you do play before your opponents do. But I think the biggest thing, too, is for us, West Ham away has been a late scheduled game the last 2 seasons. And it's kind of crummy because that's our kind of bogey game where, the last 2 seasons in a row we've lost. So for this season to finally get a result early in the season, too, I think took the pressure off of us not to perform late in the season, possibly when we have championship aspirations. So I think that, might be a microcosm of the season. We finally got over, the hump of that, and hopefully maybe we can beat like Chelsea away for the first time in 30 years. I'm just going to put it out there. That's what I'd like to see. And obviously, I'm getting a little off task again, but I think that, it does make a difference. Whenever you play before your rivals, and, whether you're playing it on the road or at home is always going to make a difference. But for the Spurs this season, it seems that we are more at home on the road than we are actually at home.
Yeah, it's a very Spursy thing, isn't it, to say, but it's very true. And just to
I love it. I love it.
Absolutely. It's very Spurs. And just to finish up on the game from yesterday, Kev, Sergio Aurier, as I say, sent off in the second half. Came over with a little bit of publicity, didn't he? It's fair to say. And he went off yesterday with a little bit of publicity. First Spurs player for 84 games to be sent off. Last since Vlad Kirakesh in 2015. So we've had a good disciplinary record over the last few years. But what do you make of Aurier? Because he looked great, didn't he, against Dortmund in the Champions League. Got a little bit of criticism yesterday, but I actually don't think he did as bad as some people are saying. What's your view on it?
I thought he was actually okay. I thought he was pretty good. You can tell that he's like a bit of a loose cannon at times, but I think that's probably just his debut, wasn't it? It's a big game, it's London derby. You can tell he's up for it. But again, like you said, Dortmund, I thought he was really good, and you can tell, I think, going forward that he's going to be a big plus for us. I think down the right hand side. I think he's so explosive. He's such an athlete. And I think later on down the season, I think we're really going to see the benefits of him. But that game yesterday, I think he played well. It was a bit shaky at times. He made a couple of positional errors, but he recovered well, a bit like what Walker was like, really.
Is he an upgrade on Walker, do you think, Kev?
I do actually think he will be. Yeah. Walker used to frustrate the hell out of me. He really did. Because, again, he seemed to be the one that was out of position, and he used to just drive me mad. And just because he was so fast and he was such an athlete, again, he used to always get himself back in position. But he used to get caught out a few times. Yeah, I think he'll be fine, But of course, the press were loving that, wasn't they? He got sent off.
Played right into their hands, didn't he? But I think he's going to be a great player to come. And
you
don't win the league twice in any top country without being a good player, and he's certainly. Yeah. Well, listen, guys, what we're going to do now is we're going to take a short break, but we'll be back after the break where we'll take your questions. We'll be previewing a couple of games also, so don't go anywhere. We'll be back after this. Hi, guys. Welcome back to the E-Spurs podcast. As you know, guys, we like to give a few of you a mention who are listening from far-flung corners of the planet. We really do appreciate every single listen we get on the podcast each and every week. So just to mention a few of you, to Ragiv Devgon from Delhi in India, to Georgia Rebel from Newnham in Georgia, and Michael Tackett in Oxford, Ohio. So thanks, guys, for listening. Thanks for subscribing every single week. We really do appreciate every single one of you. Hope you enjoy what you're hearing on the podcast. So let's hit the questions, shall we, guys? Let's put your questions to the panel, as we like to do. First question this week is from Willie at FactN Notification. This goes to Austin. I'm going to put this to Austin. He asked, how many goals for Kane this season if he doesn't get any injuries?
That's a very good question. I would think that as long as he stays healthy, let's all touch a bit of wood when we say this, that, last season he was injured for two different stints. I think one was probably 2 to 3 weeks, and then another one was for about a month or maybe a little bit longer. So as long as he stays healthy, then I tend to think he's probably going to score anywhere from 35, but I think the magic number for me is 38. I think that would be a fantastic season. He's already on 6 this season, for in all competitions, I think. I'm not, or maybe that's just the Premier League. I'm not sure. I think he might even have closer to 8 so far in this term. So he's been fantastic. I think that if he stays healthy, he has a lot of football ahead of him. He's going to start probably the majority of every important game. So, I tend to see him scoring probably close to 38 goals. I think that's the magic number for me.
Yeah, the sky's the limit, isn't it, really? Kev, for you, can he reach the 30s again and take that golden boot third season in a row?
For sure. Again, going back to what Austin said, he was injured the last 2 seasons, really. Had been out for about 2 months. Last season he was, the season before that he got injured again, and he still became top scorer. So, if he can stay playing the whole season, no injuries, Oh yeah, I can easily see him getting. If he carries on like he is, getting maybe 40 goals. I'm going to maybe say 41.
Wow. Listen, there's some bold predictions being made this week.
I'm knocking on wood. I'm knocking on wood so hard right now because I'm just like, I mean, we're literally just fishing right now. Like it's not. There's no way that we could even guess. But at the same time, if we put any bad juju on my boy Hurricane, I'm gonna be so mad at myself, and I'm gonna come back to the pod and be like, it's my fault. But hopefully we're just speculation here, but yeah, anyways.
Such a great player, and listen, I mean, we're laughing here, but you know, it's not beyond the realms of possibility.
No.
When you think Clive Allen back in the 80s, you know, got up to the 40 goal mark. I mean, it's certainly possible, and if anyone can do it, then it's got to be him. You have to laugh really, because watching that game on Saturday, you can almost see Romelu Lukaku's face, can't you? As Harry Kane gets the ball and hits another one in, it's just it's just great to see, and great to have a player that we can describe as one of the best in the world now, and really believe it, and more to come with the likes of Dele Alli. And that sort of takes us on to our next question, really, Kev, because it's from Davey Boy on the E-Spurs app, and he asked, in your opinion, who is our most underrated player at the moment?
Oh, that's a good question. I think I wouldn't say underrated, but Eric Dyer. I mean, he's so much better in that centre midfield role than at the back. So I think he could be a really good big season for Dyer. I think because he's just for me, I'm not a big fan of him in the back. And being that back three, likes to play. It didn't really work, I didn't think, last season that much, and I think that's obviously why he's brought in Sanchez. But yeah, for me, I would probably say Dyer. I don't think people give him the credit that he really deserves. He's such a good player. He really is. And he does those dirty things that no one really notices. You know, gets stuck in, just plays the ball on. You know, he's neat and tidy. So I would probably say Dyer to a degree.
Do you think, Kev, there was any truth in the rumours that he might be off to Man United in the summer?
I don't think so. No, there might have been some interest, maybe. But again, loads of teams are interested in their players, aren't they? Doesn't mean they're going to get them.
No, absolutely. And as Pochettino says, it's a compliment, isn't it?
Yeah, of course it is.
It's brilliant to have him in the side. Brilliant. I mean, a lot said about our squad and the strength of our squad, and sometimes criticism that it's not as strong as it could be. But when you look at, you know, guys like Dyer, who are in the side at the moment, but you can argue when Wanyama's back and Dembele's back, he's going to be, you know, pretty much sitting it out for majority of the season, but such an asset because he does, as you say there, Kev, he gives 100% every single game, doesn't he? So
definitely. I mean, yeah, I just think he's class. I really do. I mean, Wanyama was very, very good last season, wasn't he? But you know, where he's been injured, Dyer's playing that role. But I don't know. I think when Wanyama comes back, I think he's going to have his work cut out for him. I think because I think Dyer, you can tell he wants to play in that midfield role. Yeah, and he seems a lot more comfortable there. When he's in that back three, I just think he gets caught out a little bit too much. I don't think he's really the ball-playing defender. So, yeah, I would say definitely Dyer. But again, I'd probably say Ben Davies as well, another one who's been absolutely superb at left-back. He's been really, really good, really gets up and down, defends really well, gets a lot of crosses in the box. You know, he's been excellent. So he's another one I'd probably say is probably the most underrated, I'd probably say.
Certainly quite a few. Austin, how about for you? Anyone in there that you can think of?
Underrated, probably Ben Davies. I feel like Ben Davies is probably the most underrated player on the squad because he's basically been like, I mean, what I would almost want to know our record for how many games he started and how many games we've won when he started, because I'm pretty sure it's like above 70%. You know, I think it's like maybe even 80% of the time because he's so consistent, and it seems like he gets better and better every game. And obviously when he doesn't have a game where he's like assisting anybody, I guess you say, okay, well, it was a bad game. But it's one of those things where, like, for this game, he played, and I thought he played really well against West Ham. And in the Dortmund game, he played fantastic. In the Everton away game, he was probably player of the match. So I think he is what takes a lot of our... I feel like if we didn't have the likes of a Ben Davies and we were playing, like, let's say a Kyle Walker-Peters, who is said to be a left and right-sided left-right wing back, we might be feeling a little bit hard done by our depth if we didn't have the likes of a Ben Davies, because now we're looking at the situation like, is Rose even going to get back into the starting up, like even if he is healthy. So I think that, that for me is huge. I think obviously I'm a huge Rose fan, and I'd like to see the likes of a Rose, back in a Tottenham shirt. But if he leaves, then I say we can get a good transfer fee for him, and we have the likes of a Ben Davies in our squad, so we don't have to panic or worry as much.
I've got to go for Winksy. I think Harry Winks, he came on yesterday, looked so comfortable, didn't he, in there? And he always does. It's almost a seamless transition when he comes on, and he's one of our own, which just makes it even better. So, Davey, I hope that answers your question. And guys, thanks as always for getting your questions into us. If you want to put a question to the panel for next week's podcast, just hit Twitter or Facebook and use the hashtag E-Spurs pod, all one word, and we'll put those questions out to the lads on next week's podcast. So let's look ahead, shall we? Let's look ahead to the games to come. A double header of games this week, busy week as always, and we start with a Champions League game over in Cyprus. Kev, it's a different challenge to Dortmund, isn't it? But equally as important, this one.
Oh, very much so, yeah. I think we need to keep that momentum going. Like we've been saying, that away form hopefully can help us in good stead for that one. I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be right over there. Probably there's going to be, I'm sure the fans over there for them will be up for it, because they're playing in a big Champions League game, so there's obviously that atmosphere that we're going to have to try and get used to, but I think we'll be okay. I think we'll be okay with that one. I think that'd be a win for us. Yeah,
I mean, fingers crossed, another win in the bag would be lovely, because it would go a long way towards securing the qualification. Austin, any fears?
Honestly, see us taking a result from every single away fixture. I'm going to call it. Every single away fixture, I feel like either draw or win this Champions League, campaign. Now, maybe it's a little crazy to say on record that we would beat the likes of a Real Madrid, in the Bernabeu. That might be a little bit far-fetched. And I might look like a fool for making that statement. But at the same time, Real Betis just beat and shut out Real Madrid at home.
Yeah.
For them to go out and beat the likes of a Real Madrid, that makes me feel like they're beatable. And I know I'm getting way ahead of myself going to Madrid, but still, I think the point is, if we play Apoel on the road, I think we have a better chance of beating them at their house than we do at our house. And maybe that's a weird feeling that I have with Wembley, but it doesn't feel like home. It certainly doesn't look like home whenever I'm watching the games from the U.S. And if you can tell that just through the television, and you already know that the atmosphere is a little weird, then it's one of those things where, I've always heard that road support is almost the best support in the game, because in football in general, because of the idea that you're outnumbered. So you're going to either, if you're traveling with the team, you're either going to sing the whole time, or you're going to, be loud and be part of the atmosphere to push your players forward. So I think Spurs thrive on that. And we're kind of that old football club where it's like, where we feel like the underdog is almost like our comfort level. So Apoel is one of those where we probably are not the underdog. I tend to think a lot of people are looking at us like we should win this game, and I think we should win comfortably. I would say 3-0.
A nice big win would be lovely, wouldn't it? Give us a lot of confidence. And Kev, what sort of side do you expect to see Pochettino put out? Because he has been known to rotate in the Champions League, isn't he?
Yeah. I think, Vertonghen's out, isn't he? Because he got sent off, didn't he? So he'll be out. I don't reckon he'll play the 3 at the back. I reckon he might maybe go with 4 at the back. I reckon Trippier will come in. Probably Son. Obviously, Dele Alli can't play. I reckon he'll make changes. Maybe Dembele. Hopefully, he'll be in there. But again, he's just monitoring him game by game, isn't he, at the moment? So I reckon he'll make changes, but I reckon it'll still be a strong side. I'd like to see Winks maybe get a go, but we'll see.
It's a good point you make about Dembele, Kev, because obviously he is managing him through the games at the moment. If you're in charge there, do you play Dembele in the Premier League, bearing in mind how important it is to get top 4 this season, or do you play him in the Champions League? It's a tough one.
Yeah, he's a tough one. I mean, if he can play, then I would maybe play him, because for me, I've looked at the Apoel game. Both of those games are so important purely because we've got to go to Dortmund and we've got to go to Madrid. So they're going to be tough games to get something out of them. So we've got to make sure we win both of those games against Apoel. So that's important for the group. But then again, of course, the league is very important as well. So I would go game by game. I would play him on Tuesday. And if he can't play on on Saturday, then you maybe put Sissoko in there again, because I don't think he was too bad, to be honest with you, against West Ham.
Yeah, he's certainly not doing himself any harm, is he? Let's say at the moment, Sissoko. He's, I mean, last season was was a bit of a write-off, to say the least. So he's certainly improved on that and not doing himself any harm at all. So again, it all adds to that squad. It is a tough one to call whether or not you play Dembele. I think in the Champions League or Premier League. I agree with you. I think you sort of manage it just game by game. That's all you can do, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
Kev, I'm going to ask you for a prediction.
I'm going to say 3-1 Spurs.
3-1 Spurs. So I'm going to go for 2-0 in this one. And Austin, are we allowed to mention that someone actually got the prediction right in the last game?
Did you actually predict 3-1?
I don't know. I'll have to play that one back and find out.
I think you were close. I don't know if you were 3-1 or if you were 3-0, but I know you were right on the money. I mean, and I feel like we've been a 3-goal team this season. I mean, if you look, especially on the road, I mean, if you look at West Ham was 2-0, so that's kind of a little bit of a moot point. The game against Dortmund, even though that was at home, it was technically on the road, so that's 3-1. And then you look at this West Ham game is 3-1. So, yeah, I think 3-1 is a good result if you're going for that again, or 3-0, or any 3-goal performance where we're on top is the one I'm going to support.
Lads, we've got to move on because time's getting away with us. But, of course, Huddersfield is the second part of the double-header this week on Saturday lunchtime, I believe, over here. So another game that Spurs will go into, Austin, confident. And, again, it's away from home. So, they'll certainly be looking for another 3 points.
Huddersfield is, I'm very confident about Huddersfield. I mean, even though they played well, I think, in their debut season in the Premier League, it's been one of those things where, for me, if Spurs have title aspirations, which I do fully believe we do, then I tend to think that that's another opportunity to prove that you're the road warrior. And I think Spurs are thriving off that at the moment. So just to keep it short, I would say that's going to be another 2-3-0.
Kev, an away ground of a promoted side is never an easy place to go to, but after winning a place like West Ham on Saturday, which, although it's West Ham, it had a little bit of atmosphere in there. They created a little bit of atmosphere, that lot. So, I mean, there's nothing to fear for Spurs, is there, on Saturday?
No, I don't think so. You're right. Obviously, teams that come up do tend to be up for it for these kind of big games, which should probably be the case, but I reckon we'll ride it out. I mean, you look at, like we've been saying, all these away games we've had, I really didn't expect us to be as good as we was in all of them. Newcastle, first game of the season, I thought that was going to be a bit of a banana skin, because you think over the years we've always struggled a bit at St James's Park a bit, haven't we, sometimes? That was great. Everton was great. I mean, West Ham again. So I think we'll be fine. I reckon they'll be up for it, for sure. Yeah, I'm going to say, I'd probably say 3-0.
Another three-goal game for Spurs. So listen, we're going into these next two games, lads, full of confidence, and let's hope we come out at the other end in the same frame of mind, eh? Listen, lads, it's been a pleasure as always. Kev, thanks for coming on, and great debut.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
No problem at all. Always welcome on, mate. And once again, Austin, been a pleasure, buddy.
Thanks, man. Hope to see you again next week, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Great to talk Spurs as always. Don't forget, guys, if you've enjoyed what you heard on the podcast this week, give us a follow on Twitter at E_Spurs, on the facebook.com/E-Spurs page. We're also on YouTube, Pinterest, Tumblr, all of those social media platforms for you to get involved with the debate. And if you want to talk to the lads who you've heard on the podcast tonight, just check out the E-Spurs Twitter handle in the week to come, and when we advertise the podcast you'll see their Twitter handles alongside ours. So get involved in the debate, give them a follow, and put your points to the lads from the podcast tonight. We'll be back next week to review the Champions League game against Apoel and to review a Premier League encounter against Huddersfield. From Kev, from Austin and myself, have a great week, guys, and as always, come on you Spurs.
Ain't no stone, I suppose.